Queer culture has evolved over decades into what it is now. It's seen in how we publicise our venues. It's felt in our pride festivals, experienced in our clubs and our pubs. And it's how we express ourselves. If we travel back on the queer timeline, we can see different attitudes, venue shapes and cultures. One of the earliest examples of a London gay venue was the Caravan Club, operating for 6 weeks in the 1930s before being raided by police and shut down. It's a drastic change to the gay clubs we know today. These venues were vulnerable to attention from the police. Gay venues were not a safe place to be. We can't even precisely locate it. With street developments taking place since, it's a part of queer history that has no traces except photographs and memories. So I need to ask, how did we get from the Caravan Club to where we are now? The history of one venue can be tracked back to the 1960s, with some reporting even earlier. South London's the Royal Vauxhall Tavern. The Royal Vauxhall Tavern used a swinging 60s attitude to amp up its catering for the gay community, with tabletop drag queens and cabaret shows to provide entertainment. Now a historically listed building, it continues today, with drag shows, bingo, and theme nights used to entertain the LGBTQ community.
Welcome to the Big Bingo Show, live at the very enlisted Royal Vauxhall Tavern! Thank you very much. My name is Timberlina. I'm your host, hostess for the duration of the evening. Also joining us tonight, yes, she's back, is Cher. Say hi, Cher. Oh, thank you, Cher.
Having worked in the Royal Vauxhall Tavern for nearly 15 years, Timberlina had seen changes in the LGBTQ scene.
You have a material culture which has made it difficult for venues, for smaller venues that aren't making X amount of money to stay where they are. You know, it's all about getting the funds together to, you know, I can't remember what the lingo is, but do you know what I mean? It's all about getting finance, and opening a venue that is already, you know, is somehow already kind of financially ridiculous. I mean, that was one of the things, like in the noughties. But, you know, just these incredibly grand and ostentatious queer venues, or gay venues, would open up to huge fanfare and masses of press. And like for a few weeks, people would go, and then people would stop going. And then literally within months, these venues would close. You know, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm looking at millions of pounds being paid on one place.
Yeah.
Just for, like you say, just for this presentation in this one moment, and then it's gone. You know, and me and my, I don't know what you want to call them, but me and my sort of stoic values is just like, dude, that is money well spent. That is money well spent elsewhere.
Moving on in the timeline, we come to the opening of two iconic LGBT venues in London, Heaven and GAY. GAY's original venue closed due to Crossrail development in Soho, forcing GAY to merge with Heaven's venue in 2008. The original venue in the Astoria played host to a number of iconic performances from gay icons including Madonna, Cher and Kylie Minogue. Heaven had opened in the 1970s, becoming synonymous with gay clubbing instantly. Housed in the arches beneath Charing Cross railway station, and still today is the largest LGBT venue in Europe. Until it opened, most gay clubs were small hidden cellar bars or pub discos. Heaven successfully brought gay clubbing into the UK mainstream by doing exactly the opposite. Chris Colcom is the co-owner of Propaganda and Fuel nightclubs in Hull.
My early forays into gay clubbing was probably when I lived in London for 4 years while I was a student. And Yeah, I experienced a few venues there. So everything from pubs to clubs, the Astoria. That venue held a lot of fun for us. It was a great venue. You could just run around and be naughty in and all sorts. So I really loved it there. And having the balcony out there that you could look down on everybody, it was just such fun. Kind of like heaven and the fridge and places like that were all a bit too scary for me. They all felt a bit too, I don't know, oppressive, or I didn't get the music at the time. I think at one point Richard Branson had bought it. It was I suppose it certainly in the mid to late 80s, it was the gay clubbing experience. Probably the first one, I would have thought, and also one where things like HIV/AIDS was really a concern at the time. And it was very often pointed to that. If you saw that on the news and you saw gay clubbing on the news, it would always be pointed at heaven.
Pride festivals provide important pushes to the LGBT clubbing scene, boosting interest and footfall in venues. Andy Train, parade director and co-vice chair of Pride in Hull, talks to me about the development of the scene he's witnessed.
I think that what we would call a gay-only venue is kind of on the extinction list. In Hull, I would say that none of the venues can say they're exclusively, and they're not. There's always going to be a mix. As businesses, unless you have a Brighton venue or a Manchester venue, those are the places where you can definitely still perhaps have an opportunity to go to a specialist venue. And those venues may do a very specialist night, like a bear night, and there may be groups doing their own thing privately and doing all of that. But it's just not. You have to go somewhere else to get that, and I think that's the sad fact that and I hope that there will still be this opportunity for people to go to wherever and experience a place where you feel super comfortable or welcome.
If we focus on Soho, known worldwide for its culture of sex shops, diverse restaurants and gay clubs and venues, there's been a dramatic change to the area in the last 40 years. Gone with history are countless queer venues. As of 2020, Soho's Old Compton Street has 3 licensed adult shops, compared to 6 in 2008. It's reported that in 1980, as many as 60 shops operated in the area, many of which offered backroom services. The change we see in Soho's adult stores can represent the change we are seeing today with its clubbing venues. The slow gentrification and change in attitudes is resulting in less footfall, less businesses staying open, and a less authentic queer culture. Sam is store manager at Old Compton Street's adult store, Prowler Red.
Places have closed down since I've moved here. Every place I've wanted to go to is closed. I used to go to the Black Cap all the time. It's closed. I used to go to the Joiner's Arms. It's closed. Like, if you want to have a sex party, you have maybe like 2 options. There just don't exist anymore. We're in a lucky position in that with what we sell, people will always want to see it more or less, or touch it or feel it. It's not like doing your grocery shopping online where you know what you're going to get and you're going to get it. With the things we sell, people want to size it up, they want to try it on. So we're quite lucky in that it doesn't so much decline. I mean, retail in general is difficult. To make more money than you made the year before is a good thing. Luckily, we've been on the up and up, but that's more to do with our recent rebranding and a lot of work we've put in here. I'm not sure that's the case everywhere, but we are lucky in that it doesn't so much affect it. The problem is if there's less bars, so people come to Soho for bars, restaurants, I guess. So the more it gets gentrified, the less people there are for us here. I mean, customers will come into the shop all the time, tourists, and say, "Oh, where's Soho? Where's the gay area?" And like, you're standing in it. I think they expect it to be rainbow flags everywhere or just very obvious, but it doesn't look like anything.
The changes that Sam talks about are present throughout the UK. Those that notice it best are DJs and drag queens who travel. Bailey LaCreme is a drag queen entertainer and DJ.
I think the gay scene itself has changed a lot. When I first started out, drag was a thing in gay bars, people didn't really get it. They didn't know what it was. And then when RuPaul started coming around, more drag queens started appearing, coming up out the woodwork, trying to take my money. I feel like the gay scene and the gay sort of nightclubs where, like I said, you used to be able to go places and it was like, no, this is a gay bar. And everyone in it was gay. There weren't any straight people in it. Which now it's a lot more mingled, which can be a good thing because everyone's becoming a bit more accepting and they want to be involved in the nightlife that we have. But at the same time, as a gay person and you are just sort of coming out or you're just coming on to the scene because you've just turned 18, whatever, and you're starting to go out, going somewhere that isn't necessarily gay may make it feel like not as much of a safe space for you to be you.
Since 2000, all of these queer bars in the London area have closed down, using it as a microcosm for the rest of the UK. The highest density area for these type of venues can't sustain itself. What hope is there for the rest of the UK? As the coronavirus began to take effect on queer venues, it became increasingly clear that things are not going well. So I need to ask, where do we go from here? Queer culture is certainly changing. Our venues are being lost. Our lives are becoming much more digital. We don't know the future, but we've certainly learnt the past. In such a short time, our lives have been changed beyond what we could have imagined in 2019, or even 1979. Everyone's support is needed, regardless of what you identify as. It's important that as places are lost from the street, they're not lost from memory, and queer culture continues to thrive, ensuring there is never silence from the community.
I wonder if this could be the death knell for a lot of venues, particularly if we have got to suffer a lengthy period of social distancing, because in a situation of social distancing, most venues will not be able to make enough money to make it pay.
I think that we accept. It's almost kind of saying, well, we know we can't have the full experience, but we're just going to give you a little bit of something, and I think that's where, you know, reaching out in a virtual sense. I mean, like for the Pride in Hull team saying, well, actually, are we still going to engage with people in a way that we're going to say fly flags? We cannot be seen to be saying, right, okay, just all rack up in the Hull City Centre and we'll just all be there. No. That's we have a duty of care, responsibility.
Coronavirus, I think, has probably been the straw that's broken the camel's back. A lot of landlords will not give you. They won't give you a rent break for a while. The government has given out so much support, but is seemingly not wanting to give additional support. And venues are just wondering, well, when are we actually going to be allowed to be open? Because as we've seen from the outbreaks of coronavirus in the nightclubs of Seoul in South Korea, you know, and actually LGBT nightclubs in Seoul in Korea, there's been some serious issues with outbreaks of coronavirus, which now have meant further lockdown in Seoul. And you can't help but wonder if we start to open nightclubs and late bars in this city too soon, or in this country too soon, that actually further outbreaks could be likely to take place and we could be looking at a second wave.
You know, it's all going online. We've got to go online. Now, and again, this is probably to do, you know, it's my generation. I am not of a generation that is completely au fait with social media. As a live entertainer, the idea of going online to find entertainment is a complete anathema to me. It doesn't make any sense.